everybody, and today we're in the book of James.
Thank you, Gracie. And you can see today is a special edition. And I figured since we're all cooped up with our family, I'm going to bring one of my family members in, Gracie. And thanks for helping us out today as we're looking at James 2, verse 21 to 24. And this is what it says. It says, "Don't you remember that our ancestor Abraham was shown to be right with God by his actions when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see, his faith and his actions worked together. His actions made his faith complete. And so it happened just as the scripture says. Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. He was even called a friend of God." So you see, we are shown to be right with God by what we do, not by faith alone. And in these few chapters, James is talking about how our faith means nothing if we don't back it up by action. And Gracie, it's the same with you, right? One of the chores you have in our house is to take out the dogs. And if I would ask you to take them out and you say yes, but then you don't do it, would you really be helping me?
No.
No, right? And the same is what James is talking about here. And he uses the story of Abraham to back up his point. And if you're not familiar with the story of Abraham, just look at Genesis 22, where this story specifically is mentioned. And in a nutshell, this is what happens. God is testing Abraham. And it's not a simple test. It's actually the most difficult test that Abraham ever faced. Because God asks him to sacrifice what was most important in his life, and that was his son, Isaac. The son that him and his wife had been waiting for years, and they'd been praying to God for the son, and finally he's here, and now God is asking them to sacrifice him. Well, I love how Abraham responds. He is willing to give up what is most important to him for God. Now, God stops him because he's a loving God before he sacrifices his son, but it shows Abraham's heart. And it really challenged me as I was reading through those verses about, well, what is most important to me? And am I willing to give that up for God and for Jesus? What about you? You know, is my family more important than God? Is my job more important than God? Is my health or the way other people see me or the way I look, do these things become more important to me than God? And if God would ask me to sacrifice them, would I be willing to do that? The second part that I love about this story of Abraham is simply this, that James uses the story of Abraham to remind us about our faith. And I know I would not be here if it wouldn't have been even for some of you watching right now and the example that you have lived out in your life and in your faith, because it helped me to follow your footsteps as I was taking my journey closer to God. Now, a few days ago, Gracie, we loved the beloved family member. My grandma, your great-grandma, passed away, and she was an amazing woman and a woman of faith as well. And as I was reading through this, it really got me thinking about, well, what are some ways that she has affected me in my life? And Gracie, how about you? How do you think Grandma affected you in some of your ways?
Well, she was always really supportive and kind, and when you had a bad day, you'd always go over to her house and you'd ask her, she'd ask you, like, well, how was your day? And then you'd answer her. And she'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then she'd give you a cookie. But you just felt this warm, cuddly feeling inside that just made you feel important and that someone was listening to you.
Yeah, and there's so many great ways that other people remind us in our faith journey. And so I just want to ask you, do me a favor. Would you mind in the comments below, just put the name of the person. You can tag them as well if they're still with us and on social media. And just in one sentence, describe how they've affected you and your faith journey specifically. I know Gracie and I will be watching and we'll be reading your stories. And we would love to hear from you as you take your next steps. Thank you, Gracie, for helping me today. Thank you guys for checking in on us. And we really miss you, but we hope to see you soon.